We start off the bulletin tonight in the northern region where hundreds of patients have been left stranded at the Tamale Teaching Hospital over a decision by staff there to withdraw their services. The staff say their safety cannot be assured after the chief executive was dragged out of his office by persons said to belong to a pro-governing party vigilante group on Monday. The New Patriotic Party's Kandahar boys then locked up the office. The hospital staff withdrew their services on Tuesday, and the patients are having to bear the brunt.
So we were told to come here. That was on the 14th of June, or July, that we came. And we were told to come back this month, 14th. And actually, we were here this morning. And when we came, we were told that they are on strike. And actually, we couldn't sleep this night. And we are going back to our wallet this morning to see if there's a need from other hospital.
So you can't wait because...
You can't wait because we're not seeing any changes from them. We're not seeing any improvement. We are doubting as whether they will attend to us this morning or not. And we will not wait, and at the end, maybe there won't be any help. So we are seeing that if we get back to our wallet and then get another help somewhere, it will have been better than standing here till evening.
We came on Monday. And
if you can speak louder.
Up to now, we haven't seen any doctor to attend to us. Now, mother was on Monday. They gave us some tests to come and do. So now I went to the laboratory. No one is there to do the test for us. They are keeping on telling us that we should wait. We are sitting down there. No one is attending to us.
What's wrong with your brother?
Yeah, he's suffering from kidney problems.
And are you ready to wait? What are you doing now?
Now they said we should come and do some lab tests. That's why we are there. And
well, the Health Minister Kuka Jumamenu has appealed to staff of the hospital to consider the plight of the patients and return to work as the authorities beef up security there and go after the perpetrators.
But how do you feel about the fact that they are turning away patients because they are still not satisfied with what has been done or yet to be done?
I don't think any health minister will be happy at this incident. It is very unfortunate that this should happen. I've told you, I've talked to the regional minister. He's working on the matter. I'm yet to get a feedback on the initial meeting that he had with them. I'm going to get to the president of the medical association. I was trying to get to him this morning. I couldn't get to him. But I believe now that this is coming out to me, I'll get to them and see how best we can resolve the matter.
And you said you spoke to Interior Minister as well, to get the people arrested or to look for them?
Earlier on, I have advised that they should look at the situation properly and see if we can seriously cause the arrest of those people who actually started this whole matter. And again, the Interior Minister was talking to his officers. I am not part of security, but they will be able to study the terrain and look at what action would they take will solve the problem. I'm yet to get back to him as well.
What would you tell the many other health workers who may be afraid of this, thinking it could happen to them? What would you tell them?
I believe we have security agencies in the system, and they're supposed to protect all of us. I don't think that security in Tamale and across the nation will allow individual, indisciplined young men and women to take over facilities that will take care of our health. This is a very unfortunate situation, and I don't understand why doctors, in the light of police and security people ready to protect you, want to withdraw your services.
4 suspects have meanwhile been arrested in connection with Monday's raid on the office of the Tamale Teaching Hospital Chief Executive. The Northern Region Police PRO, Yusuf Tanko, says the 4 were arrested at Abuabo.
Afternoon, yes. We went to the base that is said to be the base of the Kandahar here in Tamale, that is around Abuabo. We went with our counterparts from the military. We managed to run up 4 persons. For now, we are not certain whether they are part of the suspects we are looking for or not. but we have invited the Chief Executive Officer of the teaching hospital to come and assist us with the identification. Investigations are ongoing. We are going to screen them, and if any of them is part or is found to be part of those who went to the hospital to cause that disturbance, he will be prosecuted. Again, we've been able to locate the house of Baba Alasan at Changli, the person who spoke on their behalf. We went there, we didn't meet him, and we have left words with the spouse that police wants him to assist in our investigations. So we know he will show up today and assist in that investigation. We are sure that we will do everything possible to ensure that the perpetrators of this crime are brought to book.
Now, the pro-MPP Vigilance group has meanwhile demanded the release of its members. At a news conference in Tamale a few hours ago, Baba Mohammed Shamsuddin said the suspects arrested by the police are innocent.
I demand the release of its members by the military and police force. It has come to us this afternoon with surprise the arrest of some law-abiding members of our group by the security personnel on the current Happiness in Tamale Teaching Hospital. We continue to condemn the act and disassociate ourselves from the actions of such, like any well-meaning Ghanaian. We have full confidence in the government that the perpetrators of these actions will be brought to book. However, we believe no citizen should carry the burden of the other. Therefore, we call on the regional police commander to release our members whom we essentially believe are totally innocent to this unfortunate happenings. We emphasize again that Kandahar is not part of the orchestra and has not sanctioned it either. Finally, we again call on the regional police commander to instruct his members to conduct themselves professionally in the exercise of the arrest of the perpetrators of this heinous crime.
Well, the Interior Minister has called their bluff. Ambrose Dery, he insists those arrested will be dealt with.
Yes, the issue has come to our attention. We condemn, regardless of which group is involved, we condemn the action. The regional security committee, RESEC, led by the regional minister, is working very hard on it. They were able to restore the keys to the office, and the office has been reopened. And moving forward, we want to make that hospital, as we have done Kolibo already and other hospitals over the country, places that we need to have police posts that would enable patients and workers alike to feel safe to go on their duty. Yes, there were allegations that they were members of Kandahar, but Kandahar has come out to deny and also to condemn what they're saying. We are pursuing them. Then there was the threat of workers not doing their work. I can understand that there's a certain feeling of insecurity. That is what we are working on, that we want a police post established there, and we have our men on the spot, people who are putting so much effort to make sure that sick people are treated must be protected, and we are going to do what we're going to do. Yes, the regional security council is also we are following intelligence to see where we can get them. I can understand that, probably because if they thought they were going to be supported, they find it difficult to get support. They are on and the chase is on. We will get them, and we will make sure that the law takes its course.
In the latest developments, Kandahar boys, very rightly indicated that dissociated themselves from this, have come out to make the point that they should be released and are demanding that they are left of the hook. Some think it's a growing spirit of impunity following previous acts that has built up to this. Would we really ever be able to nip this in the bud?
Of course, we're able to nip this in the bud. Well, no one can tell us that anybody will release. If the person is arrested, the person will be sent and the law will take its course. We have had convictions. We have had convictions of persons that people think are related to the government, and you can show me any convictions in the past. We have convictions, and we are making it clear that no one can do anything against the law and get away with it, and we continue to do that. And these 5 people say we're going to pursue them, and we're going to pursue them, and they're going to be tried according to the law. That is what is going to happen. You recall in the case of the Kumasi incident, there were people who told at a certain point that the people will not go back. And I assured you then that they would go back to prison custody, and they went back. They were tried and they were convicted, and the sentence given by a competent court. That is the way it's going to be. And no one is going to let us, move back from that. The president made it clear we are committed and we're going to do it.
But with the pressure building up, then that's where the fear comes, especially from people linked to the NPP, because the NPP is in power, and then some then draw the linkage to the previous act, and then make the point that, they may end up finding their way out of it after all. You are the minister. What reassurance are you giving the police that they can do their jobs without any fear or favor?
The police can do their jobs without any fear or favor. Their only fear is that, I've said before, that if any commander does not let offenders go through due process, they will be sanctioned. That is what they have to fear. What they have to fear is that when they get the suspects, they must let them go through due process. If they get the suspects and they listen to any group and they release them, they will be sanctioned. Political interference, where is the politics? I'm Minister for the Interior, and I'm making it clear that they cannot do that and get away with it. And I have evidence of conviction.
Now, in all of this, though, we're not forgetting the plight of patients who can't get care at the Tamale Teaching Hospital because of the fears of the hospital staff who have withdrawn their services. Northern Region correspondent Martina Booray will bring us the very latest on that. But we're also learning a group of eminent people comprising Muslim and Christian clerics, chiefs and opinion leaders have issued a communique after meeting with the Northern Regional Minister and the Mayor, and they're making a number of demands. Correspondent Martina Booray joins us with more. Hello, Martina. Now, there's been quite a lot happening in Tamale today as far as developments regarding the main hospital is concerned. What are the demands of the clerics and opinion leaders at their news conference?
The meeting just ended a while ago, and they are demanding that a forensic audit be done at the Tamale Teaching Hospital, and then a mass transfer of directors of the various departments. They are also calling for a new board be established to help the CEO run the teaching hospital. They are also demanding that doctors who want to work in the public sector remain committed. They shouldn't have their own private hospital. And so those who want to have a private hospital, they should resign and then go and work in the private sector. They are also calling for the government appointing people who are not doctors to man the teaching hospital. One other thing they also mentioned was indiscipline in the area, and that was during the open forum. One of the leaders called for the military to be used to curb indiscipline in the area. He says that he believes the police have lost control of disciplining people in the area, and so it is time they brought the military, even though he agrees that it is wrong, but he sees that this is the only way to get the metropolis back to its state.
Right. Now, Martina, you have outlined a number of the demands that they are making, the opinion leaders and clerics are making. What's the basis for these demands?
The basics is that they said these issues keep coming up. Any CEO they bring, there's a problem. And then they also talked of other officers that have always been locked up because of issues like this. And so they think that it is about time government puts its feet down and ensure that this lawlessness is brought to an end.
Are they saying how they hope to help address the distressing situation the patients find themselves in?
Yes, they did. They said they are with the people. The chiefs are in control when it comes to tradition. And so the chiefs are saying that they would offer a hand if the government appointees are ready to work with them. They would work with them to ensure that anybody who violates the laws are punished. And one of the chiefs cited an example how he handed over his own nephew to the police to be locked up because he had beaten up somebody at the hospital. And so, it's a group of people with broad opinions who have been in the system for long. We have the first mayor of Tamale as part of them. And so he says he would bring his expertise to bear if he's consulted to help.
All right, thank you very much, Martina Booray. Now, for the very latest on the hospital staff's decision to withdraw their services, we're joined on the line now by the Public Relations Officer of the Tamale Teaching Hospital. He's Dr. Ken Osei-Mensah. Now, thank you very much, Dr. Osei-Mensah, for making time to join us. You have heard appeals from the Health Minister and others for staff to resume work. What are you doing about it?
Let me say a very good evening to you and your listeners. The situation in the Tamale Teaching Hospital with regards to the unions in the hospital going on strike is still ongoing. This is because they made some demands this morning to the RECSEC led by the Honorable Regional Minister, and they want to see concrete evidence that that particular demands they made are being met.
What are these demands?
There's a beating sound at the background that's making it difficult for me to hear.
All right, we'll try and get that out of the way. But I was asking if you can hear me. What are
I can hear you now.
What are the demands of these doctors? You're saying that they've made some demands.
One of the demands they made was the fact that the individuals that came here to actually undertake that particular lawless activity should be arrested.
Four of them have been arrested.
We've heard so this evening. They also insisted that a security post manned by the members of the Ghana Police Service should be mounted in front of on the premises of the hospital so that they can feel safe coming to work and then be able to discharge their duties. They also made some other demands that include the fact that they expect that the board of the hospital should be made, but that is not premised on the fact that they would have to put the board together before they come to work. But the arrest of the individuals who came here and also the mounting of the security posts are some of the key things they need done immediately before they come back to work. As it stands now, we've heard that some people have been arrested, and then also the security agency, that is the police, were here to inspect a place that would be appropriate for the security post. So I've updated the spokespersons and then the leadership of the unions on the progress so far. They say they are in consultation with their members, and then they will come up with a decision very shortly. I'm hoping that it will be as soon as they are indicating to us, so I would know whether they are coming back to work this evening or early tomorrow morning, so that services can resume at the hospital.
All right, let's get some clarity as to the extent of this withdrawal of services by the hospital staff. Is it just for OPD or for inpatients as well?
The withdrawal of services are just for the entry point of the hospital. That is the antenatal or OPD, the outpatient department, and then the accident and emergency. The patients that are already on the wards that have been admitted, they are still being taken care of by the doctors and nurses. With the laboratory services, for instance, general laboratory services have been suspended, but blood banking services and emergency laboratory services are still ongoing at the hospital. So that is the situation right now. Inpatients are still being taken care of by staff of the hospital.
Do they actually empathize with the patients at all? Because there are patients we have spoken with, and they're telling us that they can't get care. And if some efforts have been made to try and meet their demands, we would want to think that the doctors may want to come back to work while we resolve the others.
I'm sure, I'm very confident that every health professional empathizes with their patient, and that is why they chose this particular profession. But what they indicated is that a health professional who is not stable in mind because of fear for his own life could be a dangerous health professional. And so they want the environment to be as safe as possible so that they can go about discharging their duties without the fear of being attacked by some youth groups or some party faithful.
Right, thank you very much, Dr. Ken Osei-Mensah. He's a public relations officer of the Tamale Teaching Hospital. Hopefully, we can have the doctors and the medics who work there resume work as quickly as possible. Now, joining us on via Skype right now is Adam Bona of Security Warehouse, and we're going to be looking at the security situation as far as the Tamale Teaching Hospital is concerned. Thank you for making time, Mr. Bona. This isn't the first time we're having to hear of these disturbances. Can we ever get to see an end to these lawless acts by so-called vigilante groups?
Good evening. Good evening to Cherished. Well, I think this question is loaded. I wish I was the IGP I would have been able to provide you, answers with much clarity, but I'm nowhere close to the IGP. But let me comment on what the meeting and the communique from the eminent chiefs and religious leaders of Tamale police. I think, respectfully, I would have wished they would have waited a bit because to listen to the points they raise in the communique, it is almost as if they are in support of those who undertook this dastardly act. Because from what they are saying, directors should be transferred, people should be sent here and there. It means they are aware of something that the general public is not aware of. So why are they now coming up with all these, issues when there is an issue to be dealt with? And what they are raising nothing to do with the, helping us arresting those who committed this dastardly act. And so these are my initial comments. But with regards to, bringing this, ensuring that this doesn't happen again. If you quite remember, I think some time ago in the Upper West region, we had some youth attacking a government facility in the region, and the government took some decisive action. The minister, the regional minister, was initially after some findings came out he was innocent, so he was reinstated. But I'm aware of those people under that act in the region facing trial in courts. And so mine is that we have to be decisive as a country. The police should be decisive. The police know these people who undertook this act. Those who read the press statement this evening, I mean, I've reviewed the initial video where the attackers spoke and those who were following. And I've also reviewed this press release by the Kandahar people. And I can tell you that reviewing the evening's video, I could see clearly one or two of them who was part of the team that visited the hospital. So I am surprised the police did not run them up. The police should have wanted them, all of them, for interrogation. In any case, the law says keep you for 48 hours, after which if they present you to court, they should, they would have to grant you bail. And so if the police arrest any of them, they are working within the framework of the law. And so for me, such impunity only can nip that in the bud when decisive and swift action is taken from our police officers and ensuring that those things don't happen.
Right.
And so,
Mr. Bona, is it possible that the case of Tamale may be peculiar? Maybe there are some political undertones that will make it difficult for the police to act the way you're asking them to act decisively?
Well, Tamale, whatever we see Tamale to be, Tamale is part of Ghana as a republic. And so people in Tamale, we are brothers and sisters. I believe 99, majority of the people of the region are law-abiding. Of course, you have few miscreants among them who would want to take the laws into their own hands. And so I see no reason why they cannot be dealt with, take them out and punish. And the police don't need any permission, explicit permission from the president or the minister of interior. The police takes the authority from the constitution. The police takes the authority from the constitution. And so can't the police be heroes and heroines?
Mr. Bona, probably that's the reason why the eminent chiefs and the clerics in the town are asking that the military be roped in to help with the situation.
Oh, I'm sure you know my stance on the use of the military. Tamale is not under any state of emergency. You only bring in the military when you declare curfew or state of emergency, when you bring in the military. These are two miscreants, hoodlums, and criminals who they can take the laws into their hands. And so I am believing that the police know who they are. The police should arrest all of them. And also read the press statement. I was expecting the police to have arrested all of them this evening. They would tell us where the other colleagues, instead of allowing them to be reading press releases with impunity and telling the police that they should act professionally. For me, I think the issues are safe. We would urge the health professionals to go back to work because you see, those who are sick have no hands in what is taking place. That the police can act decisively. And I think that the police have our support in arresting this. They should arrest them immediately. They have 4 of them already arrested. They are suspected. And so let's get the campaign who read the statement to tell us who read them. But easy. And your viewers, if you would indulge, few months we had some of these groups taking over the urban roads or whatever, and it did not get this amount of publicity because it had nothing to do with the teaching hospital. So let's be decisive. Is right.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Bona. Adam Bona is with Security Warehouse. We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime to bring you business news. The sale ahead in the bulletin. Government says prosecutions will soon start of persons found culpable in last year's collapse of UT Bank and Capital Bank.
Prosecutorial action against persons found culpable should be commencing soon.
In business, Deputy Minister of Finance Kweku Kwating gives firm assurance government has no plans of introducing additional taxes on mobile money transactions in the 2019 budget. That comes up next after the break.
Hello, good evening and welcome to Business. Deputy Minister of Finance Kweku Kwating has given firm assurance that the government has no plans of introducing an additional tax on mobile money transactions in the 2019 budget. According to him, mobile money services have become government's best bet for achieving financial inclusion in the country. He spoke to Joy Business at an MTN Momo stakeholder workshop organized here in Accra.
It's early days yet. Most of the measures started beginning of August, and so we are monitoring, but we hope they will go well and give us the revenue we need.
Just a quick backtrack because of TV, and for you, the understanding is that so we should not anticipate that mobile money, we are going to tax mobile money right now.
Well, what I can say is that if we wanted to tax mobile money, we would have introduced those in the media review. So that we didn't introduce to suggest to you that it is not a decision government has made. But we are continuing to monitor the economy, and if going forward government finds it necessary at all to consider any taxation in the mobile money space, we will do so, taking into account the many concerns that have been shared here, and more importantly, taking into account government's own policy to promote a cashless society.
ARB Apex Bank is urging all rural and community banks that have not met the Bank of Ghana's minimum capital requirement of 1 million Ghana cedis to speed up with their compliance plans. Currently, 94 out of 141 rural and community banks across the country had met the minimum capital requirement required by the central bank. A director of the Apex Bank, Ruben Adamte, says complying with the directive will also enable banks take advantage of bigger business opportunities in their operations.
While speaking on behalf of the Managing Director of ARB Apex Bank, Kojo Mata, at the 30th Annual General Meeting of Mwedu Rural Bank at Osino in the Eastern Region, Mwedu Rural Bank last year made a profit before tax of over 2 million cedis. It approved and paid 677,457 cedis as dividends, while transfer to a statutory reserve fund was 527,469,000 cedis. Addressing shareholders on behalf of the Managing Director of ARB Apex Bank, Ruben Adamte commended the Mwedu Rural Bank for exceeding the required minimum capital requirement by almost 300%, with an income surplus of 2.4 million cedis, saying the bank was well prepared for future challenges.
I wish to encourage all RCBs which have not met the new Bank of Ghana's minimum capital requirement of 1 million Ghana cedis to speed up with their compliance plans. It is necessary for all RCBs to comply and even add more to the regulatory minimum capital to enable them to take advantage of bigger business opportunities in their operations. It is therefore appropriate at this juncture, Mr. Chairman, to commend the board, management and staff, as well as cherished shareholders of the Mumwedu Rural Bank for ensuring that your bank is one of the 94 RCBs that have met the minimum capital requirement.
While enumerating the successes chalked, board chairman of Mumwedu Rural Bank, Adom Asumening, commended shareholders for their immense contribution and the faith they have kept with the bank.
Distinguished shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, the bank's profit continues to grow steadily, and it is my pleasure to announce to you that our bank recorded an enviable profit of 2.7 million Ghana cedis before tax. Out of this figure, we have paid the corporate tax of 656,000 Ghana cedis, representing 25% of our gross profits.
The bank's stated capital stood at 1 million cedis, leaving a balance to be carried forward on income surplus account of 2,430,782 cedis.
Away from the financial sector, greenhouse farming is increasingly becoming popular as more farmers are adopting the technique that allows and better crop management enables all year-round production. But its technological nature often poses challenges to farmers. This is where Tech Shelter comes in. In this edition of KIC Profile, we get up close with members of the team who will be sharing the kind of support they intend to provide to greenhouse farmers.
You wouldn't have had a better team than this team to solve the problem. So at Tech Shelter, we got you covered. Thank you.
Tech Shelter, arguably the favorites in this challenge. The team wowed the ideation team with its impressive presentations during the two previous competitive pitches.
I like this greenhouse technology. It's innovative, it's nice.
But it's not just their presentations that are remarkable. They have a great agribusiness concept, one that seeks to support greenhouse farmers and make their operations more efficient.
We have observed that even though the greenhouse has been structured to have a defined output, these output targets were not naturally met. What it meant was that a greenhouse designed to produce an output of 3,000 tons per growing cycle ends up hitting halfway, 1,500 and even less. So when we observe the processes, we observe some inefficiencies in that line and realize that these inefficiencies could be further reduced with technology.
When greenhouse farmers become client of Tech Shelter, they will get access to specialized services and products called Green Genie.
I look at how we could use data in the greenhouse to make sure that clients who want to go into greenhouse farm don't repeat same mistakes without knowing the right crops to grow, knowing when to grow and how to grow.
The time of doing it is so critical. The time must be prompt. It must be done here and now and quickly. Any further delay could result in a complete loss of your entire produce. You're new to greenhouse farming, come hear it for yourself, what you need to get. When you come on board, you also have the opportunity of getting plant protocols, cropping protocols and all that. And then we have tools to help you reduce your inefficiencies, controlling irrigation, controlling temperature, controlling humidity automatically. Is it as soon as I saved? Can you see the fans?
Yeah.
So automatically as soon as I save, the fans are on. Now, if the system detects that the temperatures are supposed to see, right away the misting, that means the humidity is less. So it's going to activate misting alone to make sure that humidity increases.
For this team, the greenhouse sector is a lucrative space worth exploring.
We have proposed several other concepts, trying to do something about post-harvest losses and some other stuff. But when we did a little brainstorming, we realized that what we had picked on was somewhat unique space. It was a niche that was not being attempted by a lot of people. So we thought, yes, what are the real challenges there? And since I had prior knowledge in this space, we discussed the issues. And my team felt that was a good idea to buy into.
Tech Shelter is the only team in the finals with the highest number of people. The team of 5 consists of engineers, IT specialists, and a greenhouse expert.
I met Bob during our ice-breaking session, and we spoke. But then, on a market visit tour, that was when I got to know the other guys as Ken. So Bob actually connected with Ken. He brought him on board. And Bob also brought Jeffrey, who is an engineer as well. And finally, we got to meet Paul on our team. I think that was the last day of our ice-breaking session of creating team.
We have been exposed to the realities on the ground. We've had to see farmers in the farming environment. We've seen processes in the environment and observe the entire processes and see that, there's a problem to be solved. And because the Agri-Tech Challenge is focused on providing a tech solution to ride on these existing problems, we had to pick out something that is relevant in the space.
At the final pitch in October, judges will definitely be expecting the very best of presentations from Team Tech Shelter, and they say they will not disappoint.
We are ready.
We're more than ready.
We are already winners, right?
Yeah, I think I told you about what we'll do when we win. And because we're going to win, so it's not something we're doubting. The real deal is that we don't just want to pass this test of being the champions of the challenge. We want to get out there into the field and answer the question of the greenhouse farmer. That man must be happy. That owner must see produce. It is only then you will be more than excited.
And that's business on Joy News Prime. Many thanks for watching. My name is Emmanuel Apuachi. Have a good evening.
The minority in Parliament is accusing the Finance Minister and the Bank of Ghana of acting illegally when they provided almost 8 billion Ghana cedis capital to cushion customers of the 7 collapsed banks. He says the provision of the funds, as well as the establishment of a new consolidated bank should have received parliamentary approval. Parliament's Finance Committee Wednesday opened a full probe into circumstances leading to the collapse of the banks. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo has more.
Parliament Committee on Finance, chaired by the New Jabin South MP, Dr. Mark Asibeyeboah, held a meeting in Parliament House today. The meeting lasted for about an hour to agree on the modalities as far as the parliamentary probe that they would want to hold into the collapse of the bank is concerned. A few decisions have been arrived on. The probe will begin on the 5th of September. It will run up until the 7th of September. It will be an in-camera sitting, but before and after each of the meetings, the committee would brief the press and ordinary members of the public. Dr. Mark Asibeyeboah has been explaining the processes as far as this investigation is concerned.
We are now going to write to the Bank of Ghana. That's why we have given ourselves 3 weeks to ask for documentation. And then we'll meet again here on the 30th of August to peruse those documents. And if there are any gaps, we'll ask for more. So we need documentation to form our opinions on what to do. So primarily there's going to be hearings and the dates have been agreed upon. But today we are writing to the bank to ask for all the documents that you people have been feeding on in the media. We cannot work without official documentation. So that's where we are.
Well, his colleague on the Finance Committee, Atofosin, who is the minority spokesperson on finance, well, has a contrary view on who exactly will be appearing before the committee.
At that point, let me assure you, they have not asked Parliament to approve the use of 8 billion public fund. So who is breaching the law? The Finance Ministry today is breaching the law. Yes, the Finance Ministry has failed to request Parliament to approve 8 billion. They have failed to ask Parliament of Ghana for the permission to spend taxpayers' money of 450 million to consolidate, to capitalize the consolidated bank. The consolidated bank requires an act of Parliament for it to be in place. They have not done that. So all of these are fundamental breaches, you see, that we've raised concerns.
A member of the Finance Committee, Daniel Achimabwaje, says this collapse is not something that should be politicized when it comes to the banks, but he thinks former President John Mahama deserves to take the blame for what has happened.
If you dive into it, then the politics may have played
a part in it. So if our friends in the opposition want us to do it or talk about collapse of banks and that maybe the current government is killing banks, it's not true. It is only when you put a timeline to the happening of events that you will know that it really, ultimately, the president at that time has to be held responsible.
President John Mahama should be held responsible.
Exactly so. But for me, these are all part of his legacies. The legacies is just like basically proposing a policy that cost Ghana about 8 billion Ghana cedis only for Akufo-Addo to come and implement. That is wrong. That should be blamed. He should be blamed. And of course, this is all part of the things Akufo-Addo government said. Let's come in, let's open it up, let's stop the bleeding, wherever it's coming from. And of course, don't forget, part of the reason why these banks collapse is because when you take or give contracts and you don't pay, ultimately hit the bank's bottom line, it affects their capital, it declines, and they cannot meet the requirement. It's called non-performing loans.
Attoforsen disagrees and insists the former administration should not be held responsible for this particular collapse.
The governance structure of the central bank is very peculiar because of the independence. And so it will be very reckless on the part of anybody to go around and start blaming the former president. It is very wrong, and we shouldn't go that line.
Well, once the committee is done with their probe, they are expected to make recommendations on what the way forward should be and how to avoid any possible collapse of a bank in future. From Parliament House in Accra, my name is Joseph Opokugabo.
Our government says it is putting in place measures to, among others, hold accountable persons found culpable in the collapse of the 7 indigenous banks. It follows calls by sections of the public that the directors and managers of the banks be prosecuted for their actions or inactions that led to the collapse. So far, government has had to pump 7.8 billion cedis to rescue the situation. Information Minister designate Kojo Nkrumah at a news conference Wednesday said the burden of the collapsed banks is putting a strain on government's budget. There's more in this report.
Following calls by sections of the public for the directors and managers of the banks to be prosecuted for their actions or inactions that may have led to the state of affairs, Information Minister designate Kojo Nkrumah told journalists at a news conference on Wednesday that all those found culpable will be punished.
If in our bid to achieve that, some persons are found culpable of criminal conduct, as I've mentioned, and as the finance minister has mentioned, the governor has mentioned, those persons will be dealt with. Criminality needs to be dealt with separately from the big objective, which is to ensure that we have a robust, well-performing, well-regulated financial services sector. It is true that it's been about a year since the Bank of Ghana and its advisors completed their primary investigations and made it available to IOCO and some of the other investigative and prosecutorial agencies. I do know that soon they will now take things to the next level. Prosecutorial action against persons found culpable should be commencing soon.
Government says it has pumped 7.8 billion cedis into the banking sector to salvage the situation, an action Mr. Nkrumah says has put a strain on government's budget.
I want to briefly talk about the fiscal implications of this about 7.9 billion that we have had to pump in to hold the fort and to save the situation currently. 2.2, as I mentioned, for the first 2 banks, 5.7 in the second instance. That alone is about 7.9 that has been put in. This is in addition to the other 450 million used to capitalize Consolidated Bank. This obviously is money that was not budgeted to be utilized for this purpose. Indeed, this year, if you look at our total capital expenditure budget, all of us talking about infrastructure and the need to expand infrastructure in this country, our total capital expenditure budget for this year is about 6.3 billion Ghana cedis. So if you compare that to about 7.9 that we've had to spend or we've had to use to plug this, it gives you a fair idea of the size of the challenge that we are trying to tackle. The big deal is the opportunity cost. This is monies that we have to or we have planned to use for other purposes, and we're having to use to hold this fort currently. We therefore, as we get ready for budget 2019, have to come to terms with the full fiscal implications and how to ensure that the agenda is not compromised because of this legacy issue that we've had to deal with.
Meanwhile, the Bank of Ghana has set up an ethics and internal investigation office to deal with the shortfalls in the banking sector.
Government has reiterated its insistence that no additional private schools will be roped into measures it is adopting to accommodate the huge number of students expected to benefit from its free SHS policy from September 2018. The Education Ministry is set to roll out the double-track academic calendar at the start of the academic year next month. It says should ensure the huge numbers of fresh students are catered for. But despite calls by the Conference of Heads of Private Schools to be included in the system, Deputy Education Minister Dr. Owusu says government will be fine without any additional private schools. He has been speaking on the sidelines of a national dialogue on education on the theme unpacking the double-track system, implications for sustainable financing and prospects for educational quality in Ghana. Maxwell Agbagba was there and reports.
The dialogue afforded stakeholders in the education sector the opportunity to share ideas on the way forward following government's decision to adopt the much talked about double-track system. Government's decision to adopt the system has been met with both praise and protest. General Secretary of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, Samuel Frank Dazi, criticized government for keeping teachers in the dark, adding there was no broader consultation on the implementation of the new system.
If we're coming out with such a major intervention, why do you keep the teacher in the dark? Why didn't we have broad consultation such that parents don't understand what is going on, students are confused, teachers don't understand? Is it that this thing just dropped from the sky? Or we have known all along that there will be a double track? When we have barely 6 weeks to open, then this octopus called multi-trap just landed in this country.
Former Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Charles Ahetochega, is not happy with the inclusion of high-class schools in the new system.
It is in our interest as a country to hold on to that practice. Let them continue to remain where they are and become a point for aspiration for people who perform at higher levels in the system, so that we can hold them together. You don't track those schools. You don't track those schools. We can't tell what will happen to a school like Wesley Girls under a double-track system. We can't tell. But we can tell if we were to maintain it as it is under its current arrangement, because there are so many schools and they didn't have to do a tracking system, even for village schools.
On the controversy whether private schools will be included in the double-track system after concerns by the Conference of Heads of Private Schools, Dr. Owusu was emphatic that private schools will not be included.
This year, no. This issue of private schools, buildings don't teach. Teachers and systems teach. That's what I was saying. So the fact that you have space here doesn't mean you can put students here and all of a sudden they're doing well. Parents have selected schools that they want their children to go to. Who am I to go to them and tell them that your child cannot go to all the schools you selected, and by the way, there's a private school next door, go there. Hell will break loose in this country, we can't go there. What my minister has said, and I will underscore, is that some private schools have been absorbed, are those who are in operation, anything that we can do to support them to become more efficient and productive and thrive, we will. It's in our interest for private schools to do well. We don't want private schools to collapse, but it will be a different discussion at another place, at another time, and not in the midst of a double-track system that has been well thought through. And I believe as a parent, I'd rather have my child go to Prempeh College than go to another school that I didn't select and don't know anything about and may not have the track record as other schools that I know that my children selected. I don't know what you want me to say other than to tell you once again that in the middle of the discussion, no.
But the public relations officer of the Conference of Heads of Private Secondary Schools is challenging this. Naftali Che Bafo says private schools could have absorbed the huge numbers.
I think it's quite unfortunate. We feel that if we should consider the inclusion of private senior high schools, there wouldn't even be a need for double track. It's very simple. We explain statistically for you to understand. 946 senior high schools, 696 private schools. So automatically you have 250 private senior high schools in the country. Government's headache of doing double track is as a result of 181,000. If this private senior high school should even absorb 500, we have 125,000 candidates already absorbed into the system. This is very simple. Most of them can absorb more than the 500.
The Assemblies of God Ghana, meanwhile, says it is in full support of the double-track education system as it is an innovative way to address challenges associated with senior high school education. General Superintendent Reverend Professor Paul Frimpong Manso, who declared the support of the church, described it as a smart move to address congestion in the classrooms. Oeminteria reports.
The Assemblies of God Ghana is the second to declare support for the double-track system after the Methodist Church. Speaking at the 29th Biennial General Council meeting in Kumasi, Professor Frimpong Manso urged Ghanaians to embrace what he says is an innovative idea from government despite the challenges.
Mr. President, we are in full support of any education drive, provided it becomes national and people from all walks of life are allowed to bring their ideas. Because one of my friends has said, none of us is smarter than all of us. Apart from reducing the pressure on the existing educational infrastructure, the double-track intake system is a smart move to address congestion in classrooms and also to ensure that no Ghanaian child who qualifies go to school is left behind, especially the so-called Class A and Class B schools. However, we wish to appeal to the government to take all potential challenges, identifying seriously and make contingency plans to contain and overcome them along the way. We welcome the double-track intake initiative proposed by our senior schools across the country. It is a pragmatic idea and innovation that we should embrace despite the challenges.
President Akufo-Addo, who was the special guest speaker, told members of the church he is determined to ensure senior high school becomes the minimum level for every Ghanaian child. He calls for the total commitment of all stakeholders to ensure double-track system becomes a success.
Education is a tool for development, not for self-serving partisan political debates. It is a tool for the development of our nation, and that is what all of us should commit ourselves to, that every young person in this country, no matter where they are in Ghana, no matter the circumstances of their parents, have access to education. We don't know what village is going to produce the Ghanaian Einstein. We don't know what village is going to... And if we have that perspective, then we will support the initiative that will make it possible.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Oeminteria reports.
Residents of the Bolgatanga municipality in the Upper East region are demanding that one of the main roads within the town be fixed as soon as possible to avoid needless deaths and injuries through accidents. The road, which passes through one of the busiest sections of the business area within Bolgatanga, is full of potholes and is becoming unmotorable. Residents say despite their frequent complaints, town authorities appear unconcerned about the bad state of the road. Upper East correspondent Albert Sori reports.
If you are a driver, a motorcycle or even a bicycle rider within the Bolgatanga municipality, you probably need to acquire the extra skill of knowing how to meander your way to avoid the potholes on this road. And if you are a pedestrian, You need to be extra vigilant to avoid being knocked down by vehicles that are trying to dodge the dozens of potholes on this road.
I'm one of the tricycle driver in Bolga here, and if we are moving, no, this cycle is not that big. We need a smooth route where we can easily move with our clients. And when we are moving, alongside the big vehicles, they come around and they distract us. Some vehicles always push us away, and it will cause a lot of accidents. Recently, about 3 or 4 accidents that happened within Chelsea Station site, and it's very, very bad.
This is the main road leading into the main business area of the Bolgatanga municipality, including the central market. It also leads out of Bolgatanga through Zwarungu and onwards to the Boko municipality. It is one of the busiest roads in this town, but large, deep potholes make this road a death trap, especially when it rains. At some sections of the road, the potholes there are so large they extend almost from the middle of the road to the sides. Others extend almost from one side of the road to the other. Residents of the Bolgatanga municipality are not happy about the state of the road.
It's unfortunate that it has to take us so much time, and there's a loud public outcry over the state of this particular road. And so I do not really understand why authorities or those in charge would have to wait until the road deteriorates to this particular level. When road users are crashing into the potholes, we have to fix our cars all the time, and especially for motor riders. So, I mean, even the safety of riders and pedestrians is at risk, because people have to keep swerving the potholes and then moving into pedestrian lanes, and some crashing some pedestrians. So it's an unfortunate situation.
Upper West that was carved out of this region, if you go there and see the road network, you will like it. Why should Bolga municipality be looked at? The municipality should look like a municipality. It shouldn't have roads as if we are in the rural area. People want development to come on, and development comes on if we have good roads. People use good roads for marketing. And look at this, today is even a bucket day, and you can imagine the whole place is looking so busy, and then we don't have a free flow of traffic.
I think that is the only thing some of us can benefit from the government, at least working on our rules so that the poor, the rich, we can all use it. I think that would be the only thing that we can benefit. So I will plead with the government that at least if we want the development of this town, help us. Let them work on the road. Let the poor, the rich, everybody be able to ply it without any hitches. Even if you look at my motor, you know that the road has done a lot of harm to my motor. It's a very terrible road, I can see.
And in the headlines, government says prosecutions will soon start of persons found culpable in last year's collapse of UT Bank and Capital Bank. The assurance comes evening as Parliament is set to probe the collapse of all 7 banks in the past year. Also in the bulletin, 4 persons said to have been involved in the raid on the office of the Tamale Teaching Hospital Chief Executive have been arrested. The pro-governing MPP vigilante group Kandahar Boys is, however, demanding their release. In business, Deputy Minister of Finance Kweku Kwateng gives firm assurance government has no plans of introducing additional taxes on mobile money transactions in the 2019 budget. Have this coming through from our Northern Regional correspondent. Earlier, you heard us talk about the Tamale Teaching Hospital attack. It was our top story. It turns out that we're told that 4 persons have been arrested. That was by the police. Now we're learning that these 4 have been released. So Martina just sent us this message. Says, police has released the 4 persons arrested this afternoon in connection with the Tamale Teaching Hospital disturbance on police enquiry bail. This is because they couldn't establish any evidence against them. The hospital authority was called in to try and identify them, but could not identify them as part of those who besieged the hospitals. And they continue to. They're saying that investigations are, however, ongoing. And it's quite interesting that this is coming through because the there was a news conference which was held by the Kandahar Boys, which is the pro-MPP group, that said or demanded the release of the four because they said those persons were innocent and they had nothing to do with that attack. But we also heard Adam Bona, the security expert we spoke with, who actually indicated that he had reviewed the two videos of the news conference and of the incident, and he thought that he would identify some people who addressed the news conference who are culpable or who were in the video. We'll find out how this thing turns out. I'm sure there's more to this in our subsequent bulletins, so you can just stay tuned to Joy News. We'll be bringing updates on. That'll be it for the bulletin. My name is Israel. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.
This is Joy News Prime.